paper ripped in half before Ethan Brooks could even finish his sentence. A sharp tearing sound cut through the classroom, and white scraps fluttered down around his shoes like snow. The room froze. 20 pairs of eyes stared at a 10-year-old black boy standing alone beside his desk, his hands shaking, his truth already in pieces. "A four-star general?" the teacher scoffed. "Generals don't live in apartments. Their kids don't go to public schools looking like you." Ethan swallowed hard. "My dad didn't raise a liar," he whispered, his voice barely steady. The laughter came next. Then the command, "Office, now!" 90 minutes later, the classroom door would open again. But this time, it wouldn't be a child stepping inside. It would be a man in full military dress, 4 silver stars on his shoulders, walking straight toward the boy everyone had called a liar. And in that moment, an entire room would realize how dangerous their assumptions had been. The first lie Ethan Brooks ever heard wasn't spoken by a child. It came from an adult who thought she knew what truth looked like. It was just after 9 on a gray Tuesday morning when Mrs. Linda Carver stopped beside Ethan's desk. The classroom at Oak Ridge Public Elementary smelled faintly of pencil shavings and dry erase markers, the ordinary scent of 4th grade. Sunlight cut through the tall windows, catching dust in the air. Ethan's paper lay neatly in front of him, 3 paragraphs written in careful block letters. He had erased twice to make sure his handwriting stayed clean. Mrs. Carver read silently, her lips tightening with every line. Ethan felt it before she said a word. The shift in the room, the way adults decide something about you without asking. "A 4-star general?" she repeated, loud enough for the whole class to hear. "Is that what you expect us to believe?" The laughter didn't come right away. First there was confusion, then the soft snickers. Ethan's stomach dropped. "Yes, ma'am," he said quietly. "That's what my dad does." Mrs. Carver lifted the paper between 2 fingers, as if it were something dirty. "Ethan," she said, her voice slow and patronizing, "generals don't live in apartment complexes. Their children don't attend public schools wearing shoes like those." She looked down pointedly at his sneakers, clean but worn at the edges. Before Ethan could speak, she tore the paper in half. The sound was sharp, final. She ripped it again, and again. White scraps fluttered down onto the floor, landing around Ethan's feet like snow. "You don't get to invent stories to make yourself seem special," she said, "especially not stories like this." Ethan stood frozen, his ears burned. Every face in the room was turned toward him, some curious, some embarrassed, some quietly satisfied that it wasn't them. "My dad is a general," he said again, softer now. "He just doesn't talk about it." Mrs. Carver dropped the torn paper into the trash. "Enough. Sit down." 2 hours earlier, Ethan had eaten cereal at a small kitchen table in Silver Oak Heights, Maryland. The apartment wasn't fancy, but it was warm. His father, Marcus Brooks, sat across from him in jeans and a plain gray sweatshirt, reading the news on his phone like any other dad. There were no medals on the wall, no framed uniforms, no flags. That was on purpose. Security wasn't a suggestion, it was a rule. "Career day today," Ethan had said, trying to sound casual and failing. Marcus had smiled, the tired but steady smile Ethan knew well. "I know." "Can I tell them what you do?" Ethan asked. "Just a little." His mother, Dr. Renee Brooks, stood at the counter pulling her coat over her scrubs. She paused watching them. Marcus leaned forward. "You can tell the truth," he said carefully, "but keep it simple." Ethan nodded, even though he didn't understand why the truth had to be small. Now, standing in front of his class with scraps of his words in the trash, the truth felt dangerous. Mrs. Carver moved on like nothing had happened. "Open your math books to page 42, she said briskly. Ethan sat, his hands shaking under the desk. Jamal Carter, his best friend, leaned over. "You okay?" Jamal whispered. Ethan nodded because it was easier than explaining. Career day guests began arriving just before 10. Parents filled the back of the classroom, a man in a tailored suit, a woman in business heels, a nurse still wearing her hospital badge. Mrs. Carver's voice changed when she greeted them. Brighter, warmer, respectful. Ryan Mitchell's father got a long handshake and an enthusiastic smile. "Public service is so important," Mrs. Carver said loudly. When Jamal's aunt arrived, she worked night shifts at a warehouse. Mrs. Carver barely glanced up. Ethan checked his phone under the desk. Dad. Running late. Briefing moved. I'll be there by 10:30. Proud of you? His chest tightened. 30 more minutes. He just had to hold on. Before our guests present, Mrs. Carver announced, I'd like a few students to read their paragraphs. Ethan's heart started racing. Names were called. Applause followed the right stories. Ethan watched Mrs. Carver nod approvingly, watched how easily belief was given when it fit her expectations. Ethan Brooks, she said at last, you may share. The room went quiet. Ethan stood. His hands trembled as he spoke. My dad is a 4-star general in the United States Army. He served for over 30 years. He believes leadership means serving others. Stop, Mrs. Carver snapped. The word cracked through the air. This is inappropriate, she said, folding her arms. I won't have you embarrassing yourself further. I'm not lying, Ethan said. His voice shook, but he didn't lower it. Mrs. Carver's eyes hardened. I checked the school records. Your father is listed as a government employee. That is not the same thing. He puts that for security reasons, Ethan said. He told me. Security reasons, she repeated, smirking. Sit down, rewrite the assignment with honest information, and apologize to the class. Something inside Ethan snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. My dad didn't raise a liar, he said. Gasps rippled through the room. Mrs. Carver's face flushed red. Office, now! The walk down the hallway felt endless. Ethan stared at the floor, replaying every word. He wondered if this was how it always happened, how a story got taken from you, piece by piece, until even you started to doubt it. In the vice principal's office, Mr. Alan Prescott listened with a tight smile that never reached his eyes. Sometimes kids exaggerate to feel important, he said gently, especially when they come from difficult backgrounds. Ethan swallowed. My parents are married. My mom's a surgeon. My dad is a general. Mr. Prescott chuckled. Let's not dig ourselves deeper. Ethan's phone buzzed. Dad, almost there. Mr. Prescott barely glanced at the screen. Return to class. Apologize. We'll move on. Ethan stood. No, sir. When he returned to the classroom, every seat was filled. Adults watched him with curiosity, judgment, and something worse, expectation. Do you have something to say, Ethan? Mrs. Carver asked sweetly. Yes, Ethan said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. When my dad gets here, you're going to owe me an apology. Mrs. Carver laughed once, sharp and dismissive. Your father isn't coming. At 10:28 a.m., the classroom door opened. Principal Deborah Collins stepped inside, her expression unreadable. Behind her, the hallway went silent, and somewhere beyond those walls, a truth was walking closer. To be continued. Before next begins, let me ask you something. Do you believe teachers and authority figures sometimes mistake their bias for experience? Yes or no, your answer matters. The hallway outside room 204 fell into a strange, unnatural silence. Ethan sat at his desk, his spine straight, his palms pressed flat against the cool surface of the wood. Every second felt louder than the last. He could hear his own breathing, shallow and fast. Around him, parents whispered. Some stared at the door. Others avoided looking at him at all, as if whatever was about to happen might be contagious. Mrs. Linda Carver stood at the front of the room, arms folded so tightly her knuckles were white. She kept glancing at the clock, then at Ethan, then back at the door. Her confidence had shifted, not cracked yet, but strained. Principal Deborah Collins leaned down beside her and whispered something Ethan couldn't hear. Mrs. Carver shook her head sharply. This is a misunderstanding, she whispered back. The child has been disruptive all morning. A misunderstanding? Principal Collins repeated quietly. Her tone was calm, but there was steel underneath it. The door behind them opened again. Two men stepped inside first. Dark suits, earpieces. Their eyes moved automatically, scanning the room with practiced precision. Conversations died instantly. A few parents sat up straighter, sensing that something serious was unfolding. Then he entered. General Marcus Brooks did not rush. He didn't need to. His dress uniform was immaculate, pressed to sharp perfection. Rows of medals covered his chest, each one a silent record of places most people would never see. On his shoulders, 4 silver stars caught the classroom lights and seemed to hold them there. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Even Mrs. Carver froze. General Brooks paused just inside the doorway, taking in the room with a single, measured glance. Not the walls, not the parents. His eyes went straight to Ethan. Ethan's chest tightened. The room blurred. For a moment, he forgot everything else. The torn paper, the laughter, the word liar echoing in his head. "Dad," he whispered. The general crossed the room in long, controlled steps. He knelt in front of Ethan, lowering himself until they were eye level. "I'm here," he said softly. "I'm sorry I was late." That was all it took. Ethan broke. He leaned forward and pressed his face into his father's uniform, gripping the fabric like it might disappear if he let go. His shoulders shook as months of quiet pride, fear, and humiliation spilled out at once. The general wrapped one arm around him, firm and steady. The room watched in stunned silence. When General Brooks stood, he did not raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Good morning," he said. "My name is Marcus Brooks. I'm a 4-star general in the United States Army, and I'm Ethan's father." Mrs. Carver's mouth opened. No sound came out. General Brooks turned slightly, addressing the room. "I understand there were questions about my son's assignment." Mrs. Carver found her voice at last. "General, I didn't know. There was no verification. The records—" "You assumed," he said calmly. The word landed harder than any shout. "You assume because of where we live," he continued. "You assume because of how my son dresses. You assume because he is a black child in a public school." Mrs. Carver's face flushed. "That is not fair." "What is not fair," he said, his voice still level, "is calling a child a liar without checking the facts. What is not fair is humiliating him in front of his peers for telling the truth." He turned slightly, letting his eyes meet those of the parents watching. "I have led soldiers into combat. I have made decisions that carried consequences far beyond this classroom. But I want to be very clear. What happened here today matters." The room was completely still. "My son wrote that leadership means serving others," General Brooks said. "He learned that watching his mother leave for the hospital before sunrise to save lives. He learned it watching me miss birthdays, holidays, and years of his childhood because service demanded it." Mrs. Carver's shoulders slumped. Ethan felt his father's hand rest on his shoulder. "He also learned," the general continued, "that telling the truth does not guarantee you will be believed." That sentence cut through the room like glass. Principal Collins stepped forward. "Mrs. Carver," she said firmly, "would you like to respond?" Mrs. Carver's eyes filled with tears. She turned toward Ethan. Her voice trembled. "Ethan, I was wrong. I judged you. I judged your family. And I hurt you." She paused, swallowing hard. "I'm sorry." Ethan looked up at his father. General Brooks nodded once. "Your choice." Ethan took a breath. "My dad says everyone makes mistakes," he said quietly. "What matters is what you do after." Mrs. Carver nodded, tears spilling freely now. "I will do better," she said. "I promise." General Brooks reached into his pocket and pulled out a small coin, worn smooth around the edges. He placed it gently on Mrs. Carver's desk. "This is a command coin," he said. "I'm not giving it to reward you. I'm giving it to remind you." She stared at it, unable to speak. For the next 20 minutes, General Brooks spoke to the class. Not about rank or power, but about responsibility, about service, about listening before judging. Ethan sat taller than he ever had before. When the bell rang, parents approached Ethan differently, not with pity, with respect. Outside, as they walked down the hallway together, Ethan finally exhaled. "I was scared," he admitted. "I know," his father said, "and you were brave anyway." That afternoon, the school announced mandatory bias training for all staff. But for Ethan, the real change had already happened. He had been believed. The story did not end when the classroom emptied that morning. It only changed direction. That evening, Silver Oak Heights looked the same as it always had. The same brick buildings, the same narrow parking lot, the same hum of traffic in the distance. Nothing about the place suddenly looked more impressive because a 4-star general lived there. And that, more than anything, stayed with Ethan. Inside the apartment, his mother, Dr. Renee Brooks, sat beside him on the couch, still wearing her scrubs. She had left the hospital early when Marcus called her, his voice unusually quiet. Renee brushed Ethan's hair back gently. "How are you holding up, baby?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Tired," he said honestly. Then he added, "but lighter." Marcus sat across from them, out of uniform now, just a dad again. "You shouldn't have had to carry that alone," he said. "I should have protected you better." Ethan looked at him. "You did," he said. "You came." That night, Ethan slept deeper than he had in weeks. At Oak Ridge Public Elementary, the change did not happen overnight. It happened in uncomfortable meetings, in quiet apologies, and in moments where adults had to face parts of themselves they had avoided for years. Principal Deborah Collins kept her word. Bias training became mandatory, not the kind people clicked through and forgot, but long, honest sessions that forced teachers to examine how race, class, and expectations shaped their reactions. Some resisted, some cried, some walked out. Mrs. Linda Carver sat through every session. She did not speak much at first. She listened. One afternoon, weeks later, she stood in front of her colleagues with her hands trembling slightly. "I thought experience made me objective," she said, "but what I called experience was actually assumption." Her voice steadied as she went on. "I looked at a black child and decided his truth was impossible. That decision hurt him, and it taught me that good intentions don't protect children. Accountability does." On her desk now sat the command coin Marcus had given her. Not hidden, not explained away, just there. Ethan returned to room 204 the following Monday with his shoulders squared and his chin high. The classroom felt different, not perfect, but aware. On the wall hung a new poster, handwritten by the students themselves. "In this classroom, we listen first. We question with respect. Every story matters." Jamal grinned when Ethan walked in. "Man," he said quietly, "you kind of changed this place." Ethan shrugged, embarrassed. "I just told the truth." "And didn't back down," Jamal said. "That's the part people noticed." Career Day photos circulated online. One image stood out. The general kneeling beside his son, 4 stars gleaming, a black boy finally believed. It spread fast. Comment sections filled with anger, gratitude, reflection, and denial. Some said the teacher should have been fired. Others said she deserved a chance to change. Many shared stories of their own, moments they were doubted, dismissed, or punished for telling the truth. Ethan didn't read the comments. His parents didn't want him carrying the weight of strangers' opinions, but the impact reached him anyway. A month later, the school launched a new student-led group called the Listening Circle, a space where kids could talk about moments they felt unheard. Ethan joined quietly. He didn't want to lead. He just wanted to make sure no one felt the way he had felt that morning. Sophia talked about how people laughed when she said her mom cleaned government buildings. Ryan admitted he had never noticed how often teachers praised him before anyone else spoke. Jamal talked about being followed in stores with his dad. No one interrupted. That was the real shift. Mrs. Carver changed too, not suddenly, not perfectly, but honestly. She verified before questioning. She apologized when she got it wrong. She stopped mistaking authority for certainty. One afternoon, as Ethan packed his backpack, she called him over. "Ethan," she said gently, "thank you for teaching me something I should have learned long ago." Ethan nodded. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away either. At home, life returned to its quiet rhythm. Renee continued her long shifts at the hospital. Marcus traveled when duty called. Ethan still did homework at the kitchen table, still wore the same sneakers, still lived in the same apartment. But something inside him had changed. He no longer felt small when people doubted him. One night, Marcus asked him, "What did you learn from all this?" Ethan thought carefully. That sometimes adults don't listen because listening would mean admitting they're wrong, and that telling the truth doesn't always make things easier, but it makes them right. Marcus smiled, pride softening his eyes. Ethan's story did not fix the world. It didn't erase bias. It didn't guarantee fairness for every child who walked into a classroom carrying a truth that didn't match expectations. But it did something important. It reminded people that belief is a choice, that dignity is not earned by zip code, skin color, or job title, and that sometimes the bravest voice in the room belongs to a child who refuses to lie just to make adults comfortable. Now, before this story ends, let me ask you something. Do you think situations like Ethan's still happen in schools today? If this story moved you, comment 111 below so we know you stayed with it to the end. Tell us what country you're watching from. And please share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because stories like this only change the world when they're told and retold and believed.